Dalya Massachi, author. Writing to Make a Difference, 25 Powerful Techniques to Boost Your Community Impact. She's with us right now. Dalya, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Rod.
Yeah, you know, your book, impressive. It's big, it's meaty. How many pages?
382.
Yeah, that's a big book. And when did you write this?
I like to say that I started writing it about 20 years ago when I entered the field professionally as a writer in the nonprofit sector. But obviously my hand hasn't been on the keyboard for 20 years. I started really writing the book about 5.5 years ago.
Okay.
And it came out last year.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to guess that nonprofit organizations, and which of course are much bigger than just grants, but I'm guessing that they face writing challenges that you've noticed and identified and written about, because this is a pretty big book just to talk about nonprofits and their writing, so it's got to be more than grants. Tell me about the challenges nonprofits face with writing.
Well, you're right that the writing challenges are way beyond grants. I like to talk about writing for both fundraising and marketing, and that's kind of you know, a whole slew of documents. In fact, in the book I talk about 20 different common documents that people in the nonprofit sector write. Grants and grant reports are only two of them.
Okay.
And the challenges they face are really broad as well. Whenever I meet a new person and I talk about the book a little bit, they immediately say, oh, at our organization we have all kinds of writing challenges, let me tell you. So, you know, it's kind of goes on and on like that. So I know it's very common, and you know, it's a widespread problem. And basically what I've found kind of at the root of it is that people in the nonprofit sector are very passionate about what we do, and we do it really well, right? That's why we are here as a nonprofit, to implement programs and services in our communities. But when it comes to communicating the value and the benefits that emanate from those projects, that's where there's a little challenge or hesitancy, some issues there.
Okay.
So that kind of bridge from action to communication is somewhat problematic. And so that's kind of a general overview of the challenges, and specifically I would say the top 3 challenges that I found. Number 1 is in the nonprofit sector, people tend to use a lot of jargon and unexplained acronyms.
Yes, they do.
It's very common. It's you know, the number 1 thing that I see. And when I do workshops and I mention that, I always get a snicker or kind of looks, you know, like, oh yeah, we do that. So I wrote a whole chapter just about jargon. Then the second problem I would say would be in the nonprofit sector, because we're passionate and we love what we do, we think it's all really important. And everyone wants to know what we do in all the minutiae.
Right.
So that means that we have some problems being concise, like whittling it down to the essence and really communicating that. So I would say conciseness is the second kind of overall problem. And the third problem that I found is in the nonprofit sector, we tend to be a little abstract because we're using ideas, we're really focusing ideas and idealistic concepts. We want to see things improve, and it's different from what it is on the ground right now, right? So we're kind of looking for a better future. So we tend to be a little abstract, and what I try to help people do is get more to the point on the ground. One way to do that is to create person-to-person connections between you and your reader, and you and the people you're writing about. So that personal connection, going down to the tangible and less abstract. That's another third challenge that I found.
Okay. And there's 20 that you have 20 different documents or different instances where nonprofits have faced these same challenges, potentially in 3 layers.
Across, yeah, those are actually just 3.
Wow.
The book covers 25.
I think I know some people who stay up late at night and invent acronyms and then back in words, you know, to them. They invent the acronym first.
Right.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, also in your book, I noticed that you talk about the ABCs of copywriting. Tell me, what is that?
That's a kind of an acronym that I use, or An easy way to remember it, just ABCs. It means it's 3 basic things, right?
Okay.
So I built the book around these 3 basic concepts. The first one is advance your brand. So I go into telling people what is a brand in fact. So it's really about the essence or identity of your organization, kind of the core personality of the organization, and where that organization is going, what difference it makes in the community. So we talk a lot about that, advancing and creating and then advancing your brand. So the book kind of tells many ways to do that, so that's the A. The B is engaging your specific audiences. That is, you identify who you're speaking to or who you're writing for, and then you figure out what makes them tick. How can I really get through to them as an audience? You know, because I'm not writing for just people in my office or in my nonprofit, or maybe not even in my local area. I might be writing for a more national or maybe a global audience. So there's a lot of issues in terms of how diverse is my audience, what do they need to know, what are their questions, things like that. And in fact, in the book I have something called the Reader Inventory, which is a guide to help, it's kind of a worksheet. It helps people identify who their readers are and what we need to tell them, what makes them tick, and what messages you want to get across to them. So that's the A and the B. A for advance your brand, B for your engage your specific readers. And then C is focusing more on benefits and not only on features. Now I go into that quite a bit because in the business world, people kind of know what features and benefits are, but in the nonprofit sector, not a lot. So I talk a lot about focusing on the benefits, and the way that I talk about that kind of in a simple way to make sure people understand, I talk about everyone has heard kind of the saying in business, what's in it for me, right? Very common, or WIFM.
Yep.
Now, since we're in the nonprofit sector, we're not just talking about me, the reader, we're talking about us, the community. So I add 2 words to that. So it's what's in it for me and us. So that kind of broadens it out. So you're thinking about what are the benefits for my individual reader and what are the benefits for my reader's community. The other way that I help people think about benefits is I ask them the question, so what? Yes, I know what you do, but so what? What does that mean for my community? How is that going to improve life for anyone? So I call it the so what question. So I go into that quite a bit. So those are the ABCs, and the book, that's what I call part 1 of the book. And then the 25 powerful techniques that are referenced in the subtitle take those 3 ABCs and move them forward in different specific ways.
Wow. So it sounds like there's a lot of lessons to be learned, a lot of takeaways, if you will. Can you maybe just give me like a top 3 takeaways from this book?